Today I'm joined by Chris Hart, who's the founder and CEO from Oventus Medical. Chris, welcome to the Morgans Network. Great to chat to you. Oventus has recently launched its next generation product, Optima. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, that'd be great. Listen, thanks Scott, good to be here. This is our Optima device. We launched it in Australia in January and in Canada in February. We've had a phenomenal response. We did a controlled market release late last year ahead of the official launch, and we found that about 80% of patients preferred this appliance over competing products, and 94% of patients intended to continue to use it long term. It's just such a beautiful, lightweight device. It's been really well received by patients and sleep physicians and dentists. We've actually seen about a 30% increase in sales in the Australian market since we've launched Optima, albeit Australia is such a small market. But we think that could be a bellwether for the North American market when we launch there. It's also much lower cost of production, so we can generate much higher profit margins off this device compared to our preceding products.
So I guess it's important that our listeners understand that it's a device to help with obstructive sleep apnea.
Yeah, that's right.
So again, if we can just position the product in the market and then your go-to-market strategy.
Sure. So if you look at the sleep apnea market, sleep apnea being where people stop breathing and slow down breathing, multiple times at night, it has massive long-term health effects as well as huge economic costs. Traditionally, patients have been treated with CPAP, which is the fighter pilot mask and the reverse phase vacuum cleaner, to splint their airways as they sleep. That's very effective but not well tolerated. So around about a third of patients will refuse that treatment up front, and the ones that do try CPAP, about 50% of them will not be adhering to treatment or will abandon treatment within the first 12 months or so. At the other end of the spectrum, we have mouth guards that bring the jaw forward, and they're reasonably effective. They'll be successful about 50% of the time. Our core technology, there's two parts to it. One is this airway. It's a 3D printed airway that's incorporated into the mouth guard. So the reason why patients may fail oral appliance treatment half the time is often related to a nasal obstruction or a soft palate collapse, as opposed to just a tongue-based collapse. So where a standard mouth guard stabilises the tongue base, we can do that as well, but we bypass the nose and soft palate, which is increasing efficacy. For a further increase in effectiveness and efficacy, we also have this valve. It's called a PEEP valve, or a positive end expiratory pressure valve. This valve works like a little micro pump. When the patient breathes, it folds in on inhalation, and on exhalation they'll breathe against these holes. That resistance that they breathe against will then lead to a pressure gradient building up in this airway, and that actually stabilises their throat. So their own breathing becomes the CPAP. With these two developments within our product line, we're seeing that our success rates are increasing from around about 50% to 80%, very similar levels as CPAP, and the efficacy is improving just with the airway by 20 to 40%, and when we add this valve in, a further 30%. So what we've done is we've taken a really well tolerated device that was not always that efficacious and made it very comparable in terms of efficacy to CPAP. This is about our fourth or fifth generation device, and this is by far the most comfortable, lightweight and usable device that we've had, and we've had just phenomenal feedback from patients and clinicians on this product.
So you mentioned it's going into the US, into the sleep channels, and obviously the strong clinical data that you've got is going to help drive that. Do you want to talk about the revenue model going into these sleep centres?
Sure. So, this device, because we have not just a mouth guard, but also this airway management in terms of the airway and this PEEP valve, it means that dentists and sleep physicians need to collaborate very closely to manage the patients. So to do that, ordinarily or in normal circumstances, the patient would leave the sleep physician, they might trial CPAP, they may fail, and they might find a dentist, and they might get an oral appliance. In terms of our go-to-market, because this airway needs to be managed in the sleep channel, we're actually facilitating the sleep channel stakeholders to deliver this product within their facilities. So because of our proprietary technology and software design and our digital workflow, we can actually place a scanner within that sleep facility, and the sleep physician or the therapist can say, you could have CPAP or you could have this. This is going to be very effective for you and more effective than other oral appliances, and if you'd like one, we can scan you on site and deliver this to you next week. If they accept that proposition, then it's very simple to use a scanner such as this. We've also developed a proprietary jaw positioning jig. The patient would bite onto that, scan their mouth, we then upload the data We design and print this and send it back to the sleep facility in about a week or two, and the patient can be into care with what is a very comfortable and easily adapted to device that for the majority of patients will be just as effective as CPAP.
Great. So if we look ahead for the next 6 months, what can investors expect to see coming out of Oventus?
So we have this product approved in market in Australia and Canada. We do have a 510k FDA application in the US at this time. We're hoping that will be approved mid-year, obviously subject to the FDA, and we're in communication with them on that basis at the moment and on an ongoing basis. This valve here is also very exciting, and this will drive a lot of the adoption in the sleep channel. This ability to manage the airway with a tiny little valve to generate to generate outcomes comparable to CPAP and incomes, I might add. That's really exciting to the sleep channel. So this will be in market in Australia and Canada this quarter, and we're hoping to have it in market late this year in the US. We're in discussions with the FDA on that as well, another 510k application. As well as that, the rollout of our lab-in-lab program. So we intend to roll that out in the second half of calendar 2019 in the US, and we do have sites coming on board in Australia and Canada in this quarter. So we're very excited about that. One of the main reasons is that not only are we treating the patient with a very simple workflow within the facility where they're diagnosed and managed for their OSA, but it also generates great value, revenue, income and profit for the sleep channel stakeholders. So in the US in particular, the sleep channel stakeholders stand to generate 2 to 3 times the profit margins delivering this device than they would out of a CPAP. So we think the combination of superior clinical outcomes, fantastic adherence and acceptance rates, and improving profitability and revenue streams for the sleep stakeholders will lead to some pretty exciting times in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yes, it certainly does sound like some very exciting times for Oventus Medical. We might leave the conversation there. I've been joined by Dr. Chris Hart, who's the founder and CEO of Oventus Medical.